स्वाध्याय टीवी डॉक्टर बाबा साहेब आंबेडकर ओपन यूनिवर्सिटी।
Namaste dear students, I Dr. Himanshu Patel welcome you from the Chaitanya studio of Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar Open University. We are in lecture series on Java programming. In last session we have write down some program related to loop statement or iteration statement. We write down program which demonstrate use of for loop, while loop and do while loop. In today's session we are going to discuss one of the important topic, which is array. Array is the most efficient way of representing related information. So, we will take array in today's session. So, first we start with what is array. We can define an array as a group of similar type of variable that are referred to by a common name. Array offers convenient means of grouping related information. Suppose you want to relate multiple data of same type, then you can use array. Array of any type can be created and may have one or more dimensions. Now, we can have array of integers, we can have array of float, even we can have array of object also. And how can we differentiate these data from each other? So, what we can do is we can use index, which is sometimes also known as a subscript. So, by referring to the index of array elements, we can refer to individual items stored in array. So, individual data is called elements of array and together it is called array, and we can access each element of array using index or a number which starts from 0 to the size of array. So, let us take one example so that you can better understand. Now, we have single dimensional array. So, a single dimensional or one dimensional array is essentially a list of similar type variables. On screen you can see that there is a variable of type float and it is declared as a array of float data. So, float temp and empty bracket designates temp as a array of type float, and you can see on screen we have 7 elements stored inside these array variable. Now, assume that these are the temperatures of weekday taken at a particular time for analysis purpose. So, these kind of information as a single dimensional array. Now, how to declare array? So, the general syntax for declaring array is, first you have to specify type and then you have to provide variable name and then you have to provide empty brackets, because array in Java is dynamic and we do not specify the size of array in advance, we can specify the size of array at runtime. So, initially float temp is declared as array, but it does not contain anything. Now, how to allocate memory for array and how to store data or how to access element of array, that we see in next. So, basically there are 3 steps in using array. First, as usual, we declare a variable of the desired array type. Now, the syntax is shown in a green color and example is shown in red color. So, for example, the previous case type was float, but here we take integer. So, temp is a integer array in this case and general syntax is type and then variable name and empty brackets. Now, remember, it does not actually create array, but it just declare variable as a array. Now, to actually allocate the memory that will hold the array, you have to use new keyword and assign it to the array variable. For example, the general syntax is variable name is equal to then new, which is keyword and operator also, then you have to specify type, and in square bracket you have to specify size. Now, look at the example. Here we write down temp is equal to new integer and in bracket we write down 10. So, now actually 10 integer value is reserved for temp and you can store 10 value inside temp. Now, remember that after new we specify type. So, these types should match with type used in declaration, because Java is a strictly typed language. Now, once we allocate memory, we can store or retrieve value inside array using subscript. So, in last line you can see that we can write down temp and then into bracket we can specify the position or value of index, and then by writing equal to and value we can store value inside array element. You can similarly print this value that we can see in system.out.println as a temp 0. So, these are the general steps while using array. We can initialize array at declaration as well as at runtime. For example, while you declaring array, you can always initialize its element. So, here in first case we specify empty bracket and then equal to sign, and in curly bracket we specify the elements of array separated by comma, and at the end we write down semicolon. Now, same thing can be achieved at runtime. So, in second case initially we declare array as a empty, then we actually allocate memory for A by writing new integer and its size is 5. Now, we can use for loop to initialize these values. So, our index always starts from 0. So, here we write down integer I is equal to 0, I less than 5 and I plus plus. Now, A of I is initialized to I plus 1, that is A 0 is 1, A 1 is 2 and so on. So, this is how you can initialize an array. Now, next we discuss array index bound. In C and C++, we use static array and there is no check on array bounds. Suppose you are trying to access array element out of its bound, that is range, then it may not generate error, but it may crash your program. But in Java, it provides facility to strictly check that you always refer to array index inside its range or boundary. So, Java will not permit you to use negative value or index which is outside its range. So, for array indexes, negative numbers or numbers greater than the length of the array is not allowed. So, this is the benefit of Java while using array, that you need not to bother whether you are accessing array element inside or outside its range. Now, consider a case, suppose we have 4 salesmen and 4 regions and each salesman selling items in each region. So, we can have a row and column format where row represents salesman and column represent region, and each cell represents value sold by particular salesman in that region. So, these kind of data can be represented by 2-dimensional array, which is also known as a multi-dimensional array. And suppose we have different group of these type of tables, this is called 3-dimensional array. So, in Java, multi-dimensional array are actually arrays of array, and to declare a multi-dimensional array variable, we specify each additional index using another set of square brackets. For example, here we have one integer 2D array with name m. So, here 2 bracket represents that it is a 2-dimensional array, and suppose we have a group of these two-dimensional array is called three-dimensional array, and it can be specified as an integer 3D and 3 square brackets. So, this is how you can declare multi-dimensional array. Now, we take conceptual view of two-dimensional array, that means how to access element stored inside these two-dimensional array. So, on screen you can see we have one integer two-dimensional array A, and these two square bracket indicates that it is a two-dimensional array. Next, we allocate memory for these. So, we write down A is equal to new integer and we write down 3 by 3. The first specifies number of rows and second specifies number of columns. So, on screen you can see we have actually 3 into 3, that is 9 elements are allocated for these array, and it is represented by these 3 rows and 3 column. Now, the first element is referred by 0 0, and first 0 represents row number and second 0 represent column number or column index. So, second index determines column and first index determines row, and remember it always starts with 0. So, column is ranging from 0 1 2 and row is also ranging from 0 1 2. And remember that Java creates dynamic array. So, it is also possible that in different row we can have different number of columns. How to do that? That we discuss later on, but it is not necessary to have same number of columns in each row in case of Java two-dimensional array. The next we take one example of two-dimensional array, where when to use two-dimensional array. For example, we want to add two matrix. Now, to add two matrix we should have same number of rows and columns in each matrix. So, that is the condition for adding two matrix. So, here you can see that the first matrix is M1 and it is of size 3 by 3, and second matrix is M2 which is also of size 3 by 3. So, how the addition of these two matrices also result in another matrix called M3. Now, how to add two matrix? To add two matrix, we add element by element, that is 0 0 of M1 is added with 0 0 of M2, and 0 1 of M1 and 0 1 of M2 is also added to get 0 1 of M3. So, 1 plus 3 4, 2 plus 4 6, 3 plus 5 8, 4 plus 7 11, 5 plus 8 13, 6 plus 9 15 and so on. So, in general we can say M3 ij is equal to M1 ij plus M2 ij, where I represent row number and j represent column number, and these row number and column number always starts from 0. So, today we discuss what is single dimensional array, what is a multi-dimensional array, how to declare single dimensional array, how to declare multi-dimensional array. Now, we write down some program that will make use of arrays. So, first program we are going to write is to find sum, average, maximum and minimum value from n integer data. The second program we will write down is to sort array of integer data. Now, sorting may be ascending or descending, that means from smallest to largest or largest to smallest. Third program we will write down is to read, display and add two matrix. So, let us start. So, here I am going to create new project. our category is Java and Java application. Our project name is array demo 1 and then I press finish. Now, inside this we will create a new class with name statistics and then we press finish. So, inside these we write down first program which is to find sum, maximum, minimum, etc. So, here is our class. Inside these we are going to write down main method and here I declare one array, then n which represents number of element inside n, I for iteration, sum, max, mean and we declare float variable average because it might take fraction. So, we also declare one scanner object to read data from user. So, here we declare scanner class object and initialize these source as a keyboard. Now, we ask user to enter how many elements he want to store inside these array. So, here I write down how many elements and whatever value given by user will be stored inside these n variable. And remember, array index always starts from 0. So, we initialize I from 0 and I less than n and we increment I by 1 every time. And now, we are actually asking user to enter data. So, here I write down enter element. Now, suppose I want to specify the index, I can use I because it refers to index. So, here we say enter element 0, then enter element 1 and so on, and inside A of I we are going to store these values. So, here again we take next integer, but remember that before storing or accessing element we have to allocate memory inside array, and how many elements we want to initialize is specified by n. So, first you have to allocate memory for array, then you can write down these loop for actually storing value inside these array elements. So, after finishing these loop we have all elements stored inside these array. Now, next we want to find sum, maximum and minimum. So, we always initialize sum to 0. We again read these values of array for comparison purpose, and remember we initially assume that maximum and minimum is first element. So, inside these loop we will compare our maximum with each element. So, here we use greater than symbol. Now, what does this if indicates? It indicates that any element which is greater than maximum, which is initially first element, is found, then we can replace maximum by A of I. That means, any element other than first element which is found maximum is replaced by max variable, and next time it compares with rest of the element. Similarly, if any element which is less than minimum is found, we are going to store these value inside minimum. So, here I write down minimum is equal to A of I. if it is less than minimum, and every time we want to add element to sum to find its sum. So, how this loop works? It initialize sum to 0 and maximum and minimum to first element, and then it iterates loop for comparing every element with maximum and minimum, and if any element which is greater than previous maximum is found, it will be replaced inside maximum, and any element which is less than minimum is found, it will be replaced in previous minimum, and we add every element to sum to find its sum, that is all. Now, we have, after finishing this loop, we have maximum available, minimum available and sum is available. Now, you can only find average after finding sum. So, here I divide sum by n. Now, remember that sum and n is a integer variables, and if I divide one integer by another integer, it will always result in integer and fraction part is removed. So, here we are using typecasting, so that fraction part is not lost and proper value stored inside these average variable, which is of type float. Now, we have everything available. So, I want to display same using system.out.println. So, here I write down maximum is equal to max, then minimum, sum and average. So, here I write down mean, here I write down sum, here I write down average, and before that we write down number of elements, which is represented by n. So, maximum, then minimum, sum, n, which is a number of element, and average. So, now we save this program and run this program by right clicking on it and selecting run file. Here we forgot to write down static, so it does not find main method. Now, save this program and again run this program. So, it asks how many elements. Suppose we want to enter 5 elements. So, here I enter 5. Now, it asks for entering first element. So, here I write down 45, then 11, 22, 33 and 17. So, you can see that our maximum value is 45, minimum is 11 and sum we get is 128. Here number of elements are 5. So, average is 25.6. Now, remember, if you do not write down that typecasting in parenthesis, then it will result in 25. So, this is how this program runs. Now, we test it for another values. So, here I write down 7 elements and I provide value different. Here maximum is 9, minimum is 1, sum is 33, n is 7 or and average is 4.71 that you can see on screen. Now, we write down another program which demonstrates sorting. So, here we create new Java class and its name is sorting and then we press finish. Now, again we declare one integer array n which designates number of elements inside A, and we declare one temporary variable and we declare two another variable for sorting logic. Here we declare first scanner class object, so that we can read data from user. So, here is a scanner class object and here is its instance, and our source is a system.in, and then we ask user how many elements require. So, we can store this value in n. Now, we start reading data, but before that we have to actually allocate memory inside A. So, we write down A is equal to new integer and number of element we require is n. Now, we can start reading data, and remember I index starts from 0 to less than n, and here we write down enter data and then index, and we store value entered by user inside A of I. And how to read? Using next integer method of scanner class. So, once this loop is finished, we have all data available inside array. Now, we want to sort this data. So, first I write down logic and then explain how it works. So, here we are using features of nested loop. So, these loop will ranging from 0 to less than n, that is it refers all the elements by I. Now, we take first element and here I write down I is equal to j plus 1, j less than n and then j plus plus. Now, here I compare A of I and A of j, and remember here we use greater than sign. Now, how this works? So, actually this coding means we take each element of array one by one starting from 0, then 1, then 2 and so on, and this loop starts from I plus 1. That means, if I take first element, my inner loop starts from second element to n. So, here we are checking whether any variable which is less than I is available. That means, any element which is less than first element in first time execution will be replaced with I. So, here I exchange A of I with A of j. So, if any element which is less than j is found, then we replace that element with I. So, at the end of first iteration, we have smallest element stored in first position, then I becomes 1 and smallest position, smallest value from 2 to less than n is stored at position 2. So, every time ith element is replaced by minimum element inside rest of the element. So, this is how this logic works. Now, once this 2 loop is finished, we have sorted data stored inside these. So, we print sorted data is, and then we write down for loop to display array elements. So, again it starts from 0 to less than n and we want to print A of I, which is now sorted. So, we save this and check how it works. So, right click on this and run file. Now, it is asking how many elements require. So, here I am entering 5. Now, here I enter data which is not in ascending order. So, on screen you can see now our data is sorted, it is from smallest to largest. Now, how this loop works? First 45 is compared with all the elements. So, 23 is less than 45. So, 45 and 23 is exchanged. Next time 23 is compared with 11, 11 is smallest from 23. So, first element becomes 11 and then comparison does not result in smallest element. So, at the end of first iteration we have 11 stored inside first element. In second iteration here we have 45. So, 45 is compared with all the rest of the element and minimum element is replaced in these position. These will continue. So, I hope you understand the logic of sorting data. There are many other logics available, but this is one of them and easy to understand. Now, the next program is sum of two matrices. So, here we write down add matrix and then press finish. And we declare 3 matrix and its size is initially unknown. So, we declare 3 two-dimensional array which represent 3 matrices, and here I declare 2 variable r and c which represents number of row and column, and we have 2 variables for iterating these matrices, and we have one scanner class object to read data from user. So, here I create instance of scanner class object and our source is system.in. Now, we can ask user how many rows it requires. So, first dimension is row. So, how many rows we ask for to user, and whatever value entered by user is stored inside R. Similarly, we ask user to enter number of columns in each matrix. So, here I write down how many columns, and whatever value entered by user will be stored inside C. And next we allocate memory for these matrices. Our type is integer. So, first represent R which is row, number of rows, and second represent number of columns. Similarly, we use same size for other matrix, because for adding 2 matrix we should have same size of each matrix. So, here we allocate memory for 3 matrices which is M1, M2 and M3. Next, we want to read data in these matrix. So, reading data in matrix we require 2 loop. The first loop which represents row is ranging from 0 to less than row, and second loop represent column which represents ranging from 0 to less than columns, and inside this loop we will ask user to enter element of matrix. So, here I write down enter element. Now, remember the first is a I and second is a column. And we are going to store inside m of I j, whatever value entered by user. So, here we have to instruct user that enter matrix 1, because we are going to store data in first matrix. Now, same we write down for matrix 2. So, copy these and just change this caption to matrix 2. Now, row and columns are same, but this time we are going to store data inside matrix 2. Now, we want to add to matrix. So, here we write down we have already discussed this logic that M3 of ij is initialized to or assigned to M1 ij plus M2 ij. So, we have element by element addition of two matrices inside third matrices. Now, we have declared three matrices, declare necessary variable, ask user to enter rows, ask user to enter columns, allocate memory for matrices, enter first matrix, enter second matrix, find sum of matrices. Now, we want to display these result. So, again to display result, we should have two loop. So, here instead of entering, we are telling user that matrix 1 is this. So, here we write down M I j and we separate each element by tab. Now, once first row is displayed, we want to go to next line. So, here we just write down println to print next row in new line. Now, we copy this logic and here we display matrix 2, but here you have to write down M2, here you have to write down M1, other things remains same, and in last we will display third matrix or addition of two matrix, which is referred by M3. Now, we save this program and run this program by right clicking on it and run. So, there should be problem in main. Here we have to specify array of string instead of string. So, that was the problem. Now, we run this file. So, how many rows? We want to add matrix with 3 rows and 2 columns. Now, it is asking for entering element, first element of first row. So, here I write down 1, 2. Now, it is asking for second row, which is 3 and 4, and now it is asking for third row, which is 5 and 6. Now, we have read 6 data, each row has a 2 columns. So, 2 data, first 2 data is first row, second 2 data is second row, and last 2 data represent third row. Similarly, we will enter data for second matrix. So, this is first row data, then second row data, and now we have third row data. Now, you can see on the screen 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, 6 is the first matrix, second matrix is 7, 8, 9, 0 and 4, 5, that you can also see here how it is entered. And finally, we will check whether two matrices are added correctly or not. So, these one is added with 7 of second matrix and the answer is 8. Likewise, these two is added with 8 and the result is 10. Similarly, 3 and 9s are added and our result is 12. So, you can check that our matrix is a works correctly. You can rerun this program for checking matrix of any size, but remember that for adding two matrix we should have same size. So, in today's session we have discussed three programs. First program is for finding sum, maximum, minimum and average of array elements. The second program we write down is a sorting data stored inside array, and last program that we have recently discussed is for adding two matrix. So, I hope you enjoy this session. Thank you and happy learning.
स्वाध्याय टीवी